Felicitations! It is me, Felicia Day, and this is my podcast number 65. This is a solo podcast. I just saw somebody I know, or I don't know, I just follow them on Twitter, and they were like, I'm launching my solo podcast. I'm like, oh, is that what I've been doing for 3 years? For 65 episodes? I don't know. Occasionally I've had guests. Does that mean I can't have a guest if I say this is a solo podcast? These are the things that keep me up at night. Not really. My cat keeps me up at night. I lock the cat in the back of the house. And I don't have thin walls. I guess they're kind of thin because I will have earplugs combined with walls. And this cat, for some reason, I think she has amnesia about eating because it says around 4 a.m. It's as if she is a starvation victim. She's in some kind of, I don't know, some kind of penitentiary where they don't feed anybody. And honestly, the yowling, and by the way, there is food and water in the room with her, as well as a cat box. And so there's no reason why there should be any distress whatsoever. 4 a.m. Oh no! I forgot that I'm never getting fed again! Help me! Help me! This is my dumb cat speed bump. My daughter, Calliope, wants another cat. I'm like, nope. I'm not scooping more pee or poop. I would rather get a dog. At least they can deposit it outside, but then that's a lot more work because you actually have to open the door when they need to go out. So no to that as well. No to everything. No more responsibility. Get back! I had some coffee, if you can't tell. Hi, I hope everybody had a really, really good week. I did have an adequate week. I don't even know what to... Did I even look at my schedule to see what I did here? I've been under construction. And as you know, I've been under construction since last January. So 18 months now at this point. And it's been great. But what I did the last 2 weeks, other than wait for, sprinkler systems to be installed, I did my head. I don't know, that sounds a little bit weird. What I did, y'all, was I got my hair did. I dyed it strawberry blonde. I think I already wrote about this before, but whatever. I did. Oh, it was a newsletter. I was up and down with it. It's almost too sophisticated and good looking on me, but I'm like, you know what? I'm wearing it well. It sort of is sort of a you know how you get a copper penny and it's kind of like, it's pretty cute. That's a good color. And then you shine it and it's like, whoa, hot penny. Not referring to Dr. Horrible. And then you say, this is it. I also, I got my eyebrows done. Got a little lash stuff done. I got a little facial. And anybody who is giggling right now, you're clearly probably a guy because you don't get facials. Oh boy. Yeah. I'm thinking like you. I got my face cleaned. It wasn't clean. I'm sure it needed cleaning. I try. Anyway, okay, before we get deep into the podcast, I want to give a shout out to my new podcast, Undressing the Witcher. So if y'all like The Witcher, me and my friend Tom Lank are undressing it. We did the first episode. It is up on iTunes, I think Google Play probably now, Audible as well, other places that you get podcasts. There's an RSS feed as well. Just search Undressing the Witcher. What will come up is a mod with naked people in The Witcher, okay? That's just the internet. So dig a little deeper. Go to my Discord announcements channel if you can't find the links. But we're having such a good time with it. We still are undressing Bridgerton, but there are no new episodes out for a while now. They're shooting season 2 now, so I wouldn't imagine until the fall probably early next year we'll get new Bridgerton episodes. So in the interim, I know that Witcher season 2 is going to probably be out in the fall, but I'm not sure. But I know it's been done shooting for a couple months, so that would be my estimation. So we're going to have a lot of Witcher to undress. If you are a fantasy fan, come on in. And the reason why we started another feed, I'm not going to go into it because I literally talked about it in 2 other feeds now. We just wanted it to be easy for people who like something to subscribe to it. If you don't like something, because I subscribe to a lot of podcasts, and I'll only click on the ones that I think are really interesting. Like if it's a biography podcast or a science podcast, I'll pick the episode that looks interesting to me. So we don't want to dump The Witcher into a feed where People, I'm not going to talk about this anymore. You're not getting this anymore. I did get an eye exam too. My eyesight, y'all, has gotten better. I don't know exactly how eyes are measured, but I am now on a lesser prescription than I was. My eyes are twice as powerful now as they were in college. Now, I was really confident in that. I was like, whoa, I'm like aging backwards. But then I realized maybe I'm getting nearsighted, and that's like with age, it's making my farsightedness is nearsighted. So wait, the farsightedness is, I can't see far. I can't see far? So that means I'm nearsighted? Okay, so I'm nearsighted, but I'm getting farsighted. That's making the near a little bit far. I'm not an optometrist or an ophthalmologist, okay? Just either one. My ophthalmologist is entering the Miss California pageant, and she is 55 years old, and she looks incredible. So not that has anything to do with anything, but I was like, damn, girl. And your eyes look great. And she told me leafy greens. You got to eat them leafy greens if you want good eyeballs when you're older, all right? Pro tip. So all of this is culminating in I'm having a good week. I had a good weekend. Calliope had her first preschool get-together on the weekend with the other kids. It was a distance play date at a park, and everybody had their own little picnic things, and they did like riding ponies around, and they raced, and she tried to hold a spoon with an egg on it and race, and then she basically just literally held the egg on it and ran. I was like, hey, that's a way to hack it. Why sit there and try to balance it with one hand when you could just full on run with the egg? And it's so funny because this is so Calliope. I don't know. I did this to her, 100%. They said, go. And immediately she's the one person who goes, like, they're going forward. She goes, like, perpendicular to everybody else. And then she says, I know, I will change the rules. I know. She always wants to change the rules, all right? And it's really fun. Like, when we play a board game, she's like, I know, in my version of this game, we're going to do this. And I'm like, this is so cool. She's confident enough that she feels like her ideas are as good as the existing ideas. Now, it's going to be hard for her to learn in a structured environment like that. But hopefully we'll find a middle ground in encouraging her individuality. And she was like, and also acquiring any skills that will back all that up. The last thing, so they broke everything up, and she was like, so this one little kid whose dad was in charge of everything was like, his kid was the leader every time, right? Because he was an older kid, and he totally, he followed directions well, and he led all the kids around on the horses. But after it was broken up, Calliope was just like, I want to lead. She kept saying it, but everybody kind of gone, so I was like, okay, let's go. And so we did our own race by ourselves. The other parents, I don't care what they thought. I don't care. That's pretty much, I've been working on this other project, a little project that's been fun. It's going to take me into new worlds. I don't know. It'll help support the podcast. Try not to be douchey. It's all hard. And what else am I doing? I'm writing. I'm almost finished with a proposal for a graphic novel I'm so excited about. And I'm actually resentful when anything takes me away from this proposal. I have like some more script pages to write and a couple other things to do. But I think for the first time in my life, I'm like, I would rather be writing than doing anything else. And this is what I've fought to get to my whole life. And so even these moments of I'm doing this for myself and nobody else, I don't care if anybody ever sees this. If no one buys this, I will write this thing myself and I will make it myself and I will have it. I don't care if people don't like it. So, if you guys read Embrace Your Weird, that is literally the point at which I've been fighting to get to my whole life. And I think I was kind of there in the intellectual process of it when I wrote that book, but I wasn't emotionally there. And it was COVID that kind of cut me off from needing to please other people with what I do that allowed me to find that kernel of like, well, what would you do, Felicia? And it's kind of what I'm fighting for as the world opens up, to not let other people's needs of me just, because I realize I'm a noodle. And I think it's almost pathological how noodly I am, in that anybody who comes in the door who wants something of me, I'll give it to them. It literally is, it's unthinkingly, like somebody needs my time, where do you need me? I am not important in the equation. And in talking, this was something I worked on with my therapist a lot last year about, like, I don't even know if I, in a sense, exist outside of other people needing things from me, in a sense. I know I shouldn't be I'm oversharing, but this is just, it's so exciting to kind of understand why I've never been able to focus on something the Guild was it, and Geek and Sundry, because I own those and they were really an expression of my own creativity. Those were so important to me, and some roles that I played, and those are all the standouts in my life that make me feel proud. They happen to be the most popular things, but that didn't matter because I've done other things that I was super proud of that aren't necessarily super popular that gave me that kind of feeling, like making a cake or building something in my house. That kind of satisfaction, I think, is what we should all strive for, but we're not encouraged to really prioritize that over other people needing us. And I think in becoming a mom, it really extra jarred that in me because you always have this baby there who needs you, right? So, yeah, a lot of people have been like, hey, you want to do this thing? Hey, and I've been pretty good about saying no to things. I'm still doing too many guesting on other people's podcasts, but I'm kind of like, you know what? You have 3 podcasts now. You need to prioritize your time. Maybe level it up, get a producer to at least help put some music on this podcast, and figure out because I know that I do my best work in isolation of other people, in a sense. And that's kind of hard because I do want to get back into acting, but I know the minute I open that door, then there's going to be this flood of things, and then what do I do then? What's going to be the priority? Do I put my graphic novel aside for 8 weeks? Is that really what I want to do? So, I think we're all, again, struggling with COVID opening up. And I want to urge everybody not to fall into patterns and just immediately adopt things that have been out of your life that seem like a good idea to bring back in, but might not have actually been that fulfilling or fun, or people who might not be that fulfilling or fun. Because, we just take it, life is a given, and we fall into a pattern of behavior, and it's easy. And we have so many decisions every day. Why not do something that's easy? God knows. Make it easier for me. But at the same time, what are we wanting long term? And how are we prioritizing that? And how do we fight against the tide of everybody else's opening up the world for their own advantage? That's all. All those, I don't know if I'm repetitive. Am I repetitive? I probably am. Whatever. All right. That was my 2 weeks. That was what's in the world of Felicia. Everybody join the Discord, discord.gg/FeliciaDay. It is a really wonderful community. And again, just wonderful people there talking about all sorts of things. I lurk a lot in the forums. I get a lot of book tips and game tips and board games things. And it's just a great group of people. And you can keep up with what I'm doing. Because honestly, I think as we move forward, I believe that the future of social media and online interaction is not using a megaphone. It's talking to people with a normal voice. And if you happen to be within range, you get to be a part of the conversation. If you don't, well, that's it. I mean, there's always going to be the people with megaphones just because they have huge followings, right? But I do believe that community itself, more one-to-one, more meeting within the community versus like having it be just the personality and the fan. I feel like that sort of fan-to-fan connection around that community is going to be more and more important as we move toward more private areas to interact. Because honestly, being out in a crowd, being amongst everybody's, there's a lot of a-holes out there. And so I can't believe, when I look back on the 10 years that I've been on the internet, I cannot believe I allowed myself to be abused in so many ways. And how, even though you can psychologically be like, okay, don't listen to them, they're assholes. Oh, excuse my language. They're jerks. It gets to you, right? And so there's danger out there and people that think what you do is awful and you have a weird nose or whatever, a litany of things. And so I would not allow that person in my house. Why are they coming into my house every day? And, the fact that tech companies, it took them 10 years to develop, years and years to develop tools to give to people to protect themselves just goes to show you they don't care about us, y'all. They care about making money. They care about being the best. They care about being a billionaire. I mean, I don't know what you do with all that money. I heard that Jeff Bezos bought a yacht that needs another yacht to get to the yacht. I was like, really? Is that what I would do if I had that much money? Would that be a priority for me? I understand I have all the money in the world. why not buy a town and let people live in it who are artists? You know, like, you have money to literally poop out. How many cool things could you do? Instead of have a yacht, who needs to go to a yacht? I mean, listen, I think we're in an eat the rich kind of society now because we have so many people who have so much money, and yet, you know, I go out, you know, I'm like, wow, I can eat out twice this week, because otherwise, like, that's just a dumb expense. I mean, you know, I'm not, and believe me, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm fine, y'all. I'm fine. But at the same time, you just look at the inequality, and we have this weird standard where we're looking at people who have billions of dollars and what they're doing with their money, and I'm just like, A, that's kind of obscene and weird, and where do you get those priorities? And B, why can't I go to Montenegro for a month? Right? We all have that feeling. I don't know. Do we not? I don't even know why I said Montenegro. I would like to go to Mallorca. That's where I would like to go. Whatever, y'all. Okay, books. I finished 4 Lost Cities by Annalee Newitz. Now, Annalee, she, listen, Annalee was one of the founders of IO9. Amazing person. Just incredible. And so I really enjoyed this book. It's very scholastic. So it's a lot of really interesting facts about these 4 cities that were lost, essentially. So it's this one of the first civilized cities in existence in humanity. 8,000 years ago, I think, in Turkey. They have this may be one of the first cities ever preserved. And then Pompeii, and then Angkor Wat, and then Cayuga, a place on the Mississippi. Native American, and it's fascinating. All of the cities are fascinating. I learned a lot about all of them, and I want to go to Pompeii so bad, and Cambodia. But it's really interesting just thinking about civilization and how there has been disaster over and over again, and it's inevitable. And you know, we are living in a world of we're on the precipice of a lot of change, right? And with climate change coming and happening currently, starting to affect people in bigger and bigger ways. There's a tipping point we're beyond now, and so life is not going to be the same. Whether it's within our lives or our kids' lives, we don't know. But you know, it kind of shows you that civilizations ebb and fall. People survive, but maybe not in the best way. Do we need to go through that? No. Yeah. So just drive your car less. Oh boy, I did watch for TV. I watched The Nevers, y'all. It's kind of like really wacky, but awesome. Characters are really good. Love them costumes. Love British people just doing things. It's really interesting, so I recommend it. After finishing Shadow and Bone, I just can't get out of the sort of corset costume thing. There's a lot on Netflix, so I tried to watch Alice in Borderland, which a couple people on my Discord recommended. It's cool. It's very low budget, though. It's not. So I feel like I need to watch more episodes because it is based in Alice in Wonderland. But you know what it felt like? It felt like Gamelit in a TV show, which I thought was really interesting. I know there's a lot of anime that's kind of gaming based, or people about gamers and things like that. I forget the name for that, of course, because I can't retain anything because I probably have Alzheimer's, or it's just being a mom, or both of those things. So I don't mean to make light of Alzheimer's. My grandmother passed away of it, so I guess I can make that joke. No? Don't do that. Oh, boy. I did also play a new game this week, and I think I'm going to stream it a little bit. I can't help it. It's Powerwash Simulator. Y'all, it's so satisfying. Has anybody used a power washer? I got one before Steve Carell made it cool to get one during COVID. I want to just be super upfront. Before Steve Carell did the thing about power washing on Stephen Colbert's show, I was power washing. I am an OG power washer, except not really because I got it last year. Some people have been doing it since, I don't know, eternity. Did they have it in ancient Egypt? Do they have power washers? They were probably, indentured servants. I don't know. It's very satisfying. So very satisfying to just clean virtual walls and, oh my goodness gracious. Earphones. I'm also playing Mass Effect. Now, I want all of you to know that Mass Effect has a profound place in my heart. I feel like there was a height of gaming around the time of the Mass Effect 1 and 2. I mean, I played Mass Effect 2, I think hundreds of hours. It's up there with Skyrim and WoW with the number of hours I played. I love it so much. The writing, now that I'm replaying the Legendary remastered version, it is so good. The writing and the world building is just, I don't know why there's not a TV show immediately of this. There really should be, because it could give Star Trek a run for its money. Because Star Trek has a very specific vibe to their worlds, although Discovery, I haven't really watched enough Discovery. It didn't hook me, but I hear that it gets so much even better and better every season, so I gotta stick with it. But there is an alternative out there, I think, for a spaceship, spacefaring, alien. You know, Farscape is a great show. Like, that should be brought back. Like, I think there's room for it, and yet it's very strange that we don't have it. And I think people are afraid, and it's very expensive, so... And I frankly think that there may not be a lot of sci-fi lovers out there. You know, a lot of the times when they tell TV people to pitch sci-fi, you got to be very grounded. It's got to be one step, you know, Stranger Things. It has to be, everything has to be super realistically grounded. I'm like, can't we just romp through space with a four-headed alien? Please? Please? And a hot one at that? I mean, Garrus he's got a lot of crags, and it looks like, you know, if you made out with him, he'd probably chip a tooth, but I'll get in there. I'll chip it. Yeah. All right. We got some questions. We got some questions this week on my solo podcast. It's a solo because I'm the only one here. I always promise a guest. It's probably not going to happen. Oh, boy. You know what? I would rather have a fan guest than try to, like, drum up some random, you know, maybe one of you wants to come on here. That would be kind of fun to do a segment. Okay, if I ever level up the podcast and can finance anything, that'll be it. Okay. Chimera 511. Hey, Chimera. Felicia, what advice do you have someone who's about to move across country from Tennessee to Nevada for a PhD program in a couple of months? I've never made such a big move before, and it's overwhelming. Ugh, Chimera, it is overwhelming to change, and your brain is going to have a lot of problems. It's very hard. You can't, because change to our brains is dangerous, right? So you're going to have a lot of anxiety because your brain is trying to protect you from whatever it is you're trying to make it do. And meeting, so on top of like just location and habit forming, you know, stuff, not having like a firm sense of you in a place, you're going to have to meet a lot of new people. And some of them you won't like, and they won't like you. And you know that's going to happen. You're going to try to be like, you know, and that's just inevitable. But there also are going to be people who love you, who fuel you in a new way. And so this is what I like to, it's like fog of war right now. You are in a new Diablo map, and you're going to a new area. And it's scary because, you know, there's fog everywhere. You don't know what's in the fog. And it's dangerous. It would be so much easier to stay in the starting zone area where everything's kind of, you know, where everything is. You know, there's that goblin over there, and there's the place you get, you know, tacos here. I don't know if they don't have tacos in Diablo. But at the end of the day, unless you start going into the fog, you're never going to learn anything new about yourself or the world, right? So these are the risks that we have to weigh. So to me, if you can get there early and start and kind of form a habit of behavior and get to know the place and this is the grocery store I go to. This is, you know, if you could do that, this is a game store that's really fun. This is where I like to have a margarita. Whatever it is, get a little routine before you jump into the academic world, which is going to be a whole nother world that's separate. So whatever you could do to kind of just solidify yourself and settle yourself and reassure yourself that, hey, I'm safe here. This is a new place, but I'm safe here. Let's go into that scary place now. So take little baby steps if you can. If you don't have that luxury, you're just going to go dive head first, and you're just going to kamikaze into the fog of war, and you're going to uncover good stuff. You're going to uncover bad stuff. Your brain is going to kind of try to catch up and tell you stop doing this, and you're going to have anxiety, and just know what comforts you. Know how to take care of yourself in any circumstance. And moving, but you're going to, you know, your brain's going to be firing a lot in ways that it hasn't fired, and some of them are going to be so stimulating and awesome, and some are going to be sad. And then also on top of that, you're going to miss other people. And so I would definitely urge you to create a pattern of keeping up with people on Zoom. Like, be like, hey, let's make a date or an appointment to Zoom on Tuesdays at 8:30, if we could do that. So if you have anybody who's super important to you that you want to maintain the relationships, because moving away, you can definitely lose those relationships, try to make a friend date or a relative date online, because the great thing is that we can facilitate interacting with the people we love, even if our bodies are not there. And so that'll also help you. You'll have somebody who knows you so well, who you can bounce things off of. And if you root yourself in that, you could do anything. And then just enjoy the program. Good luck. This is exciting. I'd love to go back to school. Would I? I don't know. Kate L. Juve Moon says, if you had a choice to live in a board game for the rest of your life, which one would it be and why? Did I answer the question before? I can't remember. It wouldn't be Scythe, although that's a really pretty one. Arkham Horror, again, great one. No, thank you. There is, oh boy, I probably, the panda Takinoko is really cute because I feel like gardening with pandas, it wouldn't be bad at all. And I like those colors and I like gardening. It makes me happy. Splendor, I could definitely sort gems for the rest of my life. That would be really pretty. Boy, these are some really good questions. There's that one, Takkaido, I think, is the one where you're touring Japan. So that's basically you're on vacation your whole life, which I certainly would not oppose. So those Munchkin would be kind of fun because you're just dungeoneering all day. You could potentially die. So I would avoid those. I would tell you Settlers of Catan, no, because it's just, can you imagine having to work with your a-hole neighbors all the time to trade? Ugh. And there's always going to be a guy named Jerry who has all the clay. And he's like, got all the clay. I don't need you. What are you going to give me for it? Nope. Ugh, Jerry. Your friendly local alchemist asks, have you watched WandaVision? What do you think of the narratives that don't have a traditional happy ending? Any favorites? Oh, well, I loved WandaVision. I think I talked about it a little bit here. I loved it. I thought it was so thoughtful and incredibly psychologically satisfying. I think some of the episodes were not, the most awesome. Like the Modern Family one didn't. That was the only episode that for me didn't work. I just felt like they were trying to deal with some heavy issues, but it didn't fit the style of Modern Family to me 100%. But all the other ones were brilliant. And the ending, I loved where it ended. I loved where it ended because I want to see more of her, but it was a satisfying emotional journey of getting a character to a place where you understand her and you could see her going a lot of different ways. And for once, I felt a Marvel female character had depth to them and she wasn't in service to other male characters. And, that's why I haven't loved Black Widow in the past, because I love the way she's played. I cannot wait for the movie because it finally feels like, oh, she's got her crown, but it's like, okay, it was a little late, but we're here now and we're enjoying it. And compared to Winter Soldier, Falcon, that one I couldn't get through. It just was not my cup of tea. A lot of people loved it. It was just, the superhero genre is so filled with cliches. And then when you're going against the cliches, that feels cliched too. The Boys does it, I think, really, really well. But there's that new Jupiter. Ooh, that was not, I saw the first episode of that. Not my favorite. But again, everyone's trying to do something different in the genre. And so I think you can't do it straight, but when you rebel against it too much, it's not interesting. Where do you go from here, right? And it's kind of the same in like supernatural stuff, right, too? You see a lot of things that are rehashing and you're just like, eh. And then you see something that's pushing the cutting edge and it's like, I've seen that cutting edge before. It's really tough. It's tough on writers because there's a lot of content out there. And I think especially with, networks, they're spending a lot of money. They're going to be pretty safe about their choices. Where do you go? What do you say that's new? And I don't know. I don't know what I would do with a superhero genre. It would be tough for me to invent anything. And there are a lot more experienced, awesome writers than me out there. So I really admire anybody who's innovating in the space. And so for me, WandaVision is like the height of it. I love the fact that they were allowed to take that risk too, because again, people don't like to let people take risks. Okay. Mav Show asks, what has been your go-to mom hack to get 5 minutes of time to pee? Asking for a friend. I'm a friend. I'm my friend. Mav, listen, I do have help with Calliope, at least some days. I'm going to go pick her up. I have half days twice a week because I just want to go watch her do jujitsu. It pleases me to no end to see her tackle much larger children. I don't know why. It just means that she's never going to be bullied. She's super confident with her body. I mean, you throw a ball at me, I consider it I don't care if it's a basketball or whatever it is, it's like a bullet. It's lethal. There's no way I'm going to be like, hey, let's catch this. No, you're trying to kill me. So to see her, that was really something that was important to me, to have her be confident with her body and also confident in being able to stand up to people. And that's why I picked jujitsu, which is more of a wrestling type martial art versus a more formal one that's more form-based, and which I loved. I did Kuk Sool Won, and I did Kung Fu, and I did Taekwondo, on and off as a kid. So, but seeing her like tackle bigger kids, it just makes me happy. I don't want her to be violent. I mean, I'm very clear about that. She could be violent if she needs to be. Arlene asks, so the 5-minute hack to get, I'm sorry, Mav Show. Like Legos, or I just, here's what I really do, especially if I got to poop. We watch a video on my phone while we're doing that, and it's hard. It's not easy to have an audience when you're pooping. I have a hard time with it, but at the same time, you got to go with it. I apologize if you hear anything in the background. The gardener is cleaning, and I can't stop. All right. So we do a nature video. So we'll do a video learning about an animal, or yesterday we learned about cells and how human cells kind of are made. I don't know if she absorbed any of it, but I'm like, if she gets one terminology, it'll help her. She'll pick up one thing. I learned that plant cells are rectangular, which was like, I didn't know that, because I will remind you, if anybody knows this about me, that I got 9 hours of biology credit in 3 weeks by doing online community courses. So I'd go out, I'd read a chapter, I'd go in and take a test, and then I would do that 10 hours a day, and I got 9 hours of credit, just pass-fail credit for biology. I remember nothing. And I'm not proud of it. I'm sorry. Nerds, I'm sorry if I've disappointed you. Arlene asks, what sci-fi TV show or movie would you like to be rebooted in 2021? Well, listen, Tremors or Quantum Leap. The fact that either of those shows has not been rebooted is a disaster. It's a disaster for humankind. Moving on, Lucifer asks, out of all the countries you visited, hi Lucifer, which one would you consider retiring in if you could? Spain or Thailand. Thailand, I think about Thailand a lot, actually. That's a place where I feel like it could be affordable and amazing to spend like a month or two. And I fantasize about taking Calliope there and just be like, okay, we're going to live here now. We're going to learn. And you're going to learn about this culture. And is that good? Would that be destructive to a child? I know that if you move too many times, it's pretty bad for them. But she doesn't like other children. I mean, I don't say that in front of her, so she doesn't like adopt that as part of who she is. But we went to that picnic thing, and the last thing she was like, Mama, move the blanket farther away from those other kids. And I'm like, don't you go to school with these children? Yeah. Do you know their names? Not really. That one's Jenny. I'm like, Jenny's not in your class. Oh. Oh, boy. Takes just a chip off the old shoulder. Okay, last question. Cleves Mill. Felicia, you also just Spain. I love Spain. I love the architecture. I love the culture of Spain. I've been learning Spanish. ¿Dónde está? Yo hablo un poco castellano. Yo hablo castellano un poco. Okay, sorry. Clearly, I'm on lesson 3. I just did it though, and I messed it up. Oy, oy, oy. Okay, Cleves Mill asks, Felicia, you mentioned your love for kung fu and fighting movies. What are your favorite fight scenes and or movies with fight scenes in them? Yes! Thank you for asking this question. Do you hear me? Thank you. Because I will tell you my fondest memory of college is my mom was there. But remember, I went to college when I was 16. Every Friday night at the Student Union, there was an old theater next door to the Student Union. And at Friday nights at, I believe, 10 p.m., they would play kung fu movies, mostly Golden Harvest movies. And the pictures were messed up, but we would sit in the balcony and some of my friends would come. Like, I did it for years. And pretty much every Friday night or, at least once a couple times a month, I would watch kung fu movies in that theater. And I have to tell you, was it the Hog Theater? I'm not sure. It was the highlight, y'all. And I love them so much. And it was such a bonding experience with my brother because we both loved them so much. We would watch them I think they were on the Sci-Fi Channel when we were growing up, or maybe Comedy Central. They would play one of those before or after MST3K, and that's kind of like all Saturday morning. We'd watch a Kung Fu movie, and then we watch Mystery Science Theater 3000. So, like, Kung Fu movies have a special place in my heart. Also, I just love them. I love fight scenes. I love them. If you listen to Witcher, I was like, did you see that oneer with and he's like, I don't care about fight scenes. So I think The Witcher is going to be a fun, because he doesn't care about fantasy terminology. He doesn't care about fight scenes. He cares about the characters, and he's very funny. So y'all just tune into The Witcher and please subscribe to it if you can. So I love Kung Fu movies. Some of my favorites. Okay, I had a huge crush on Chow Yun-fat when I was I still do. All right, if I met him, that would be kind of hard to resist, just throwing myself at him. His work with John Woo, The Killer and Hard Boiled. I mean, those aren't Kung Fu. Those are Hong Kong, fight. Those are two of my favorite movies, and Chow Yun-fat is the hottest thing ever in those movies. So, highly recommend those. Completely different genre than you asked me for. Sorry, Cleavesville. But, okay, so my favorite Kung Fu movies are Dragon Inn. There's some great female characters in some of these. Dragon Inn is just a classic. It's an amazing. It has so many good fight sequences. It's an older movie, whatever. The Bride with White Hair. Unbelievable fantasy kung fu movie. A tragic love story. Incredible performances. Fight sequences. Fantasy. I love it so much. I eat it up. That one, when I was trying to remember the name of it, I'm like, I'm going to watch this again this weekend. Once Upon a Time in China 2 is particularly very good because it's Jet Li and Donnie Yen. Hark Sui, or Sui Hark directed. Anything that Sui Hark directs, you should watch it. But Once Upon a Time in China, I think there's like 5 of them. I don't know, there's a lot. And Jet Li, again, I had a total crush on Jet Li. Now that you brought this up, I started going down memory lane. I'm like, oh, most of my on-screen crushes have been Kung Fu stars. So that's you know what? Guild Season 2. I see where it came from. Ong Bak. If you have not seen Ong Bak, which is not, okay, it's a Thai. I forget now I'm blanking on the martial art. Tony Jaa. One of the most incredible, and it's brutal. This is like a brutal, more like less balletic style, but awe-inspiring, okay? And Tony Jaa is like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just the most incredible performance ever. So you got to watch it. I love Donnie Yen in anything. You'll recognize him. He was in Star Wars, I think. But he is so incredible. He did a movie like 10 years ago called Yip Man. Some of the best fight sequences ever. Anything with Donnie Yen, though. Come on. He is a classic. He's such a badass. Of course, cannot stop to mention all the Drunken Master movies with Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan is so good. He is so underrated and so good. He should be... Why did he have to be with Owen Wilson all the time in Hollywood? He should have been starring in everything. Why was he a sidekick? Oh, I love him. Michelle Yeoh, too. Unbelievable. All right. So anyway, Drunken Master, any movie, any of those. You can watch these with your kids. Like, the older ones especially are not like, there's not... Don't watch John Woo movies because there's blood everywhere. That's just like super graphic. But all the Kung Fu ones, go for it. Kung Fu Hustle, Stephen Chow. Unbelievable. And there's, oh my God, the older woman with a cigarette out in her mouth. Incredible. And then as far as like the high art, quote unquote ones, obviously there's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was exquisite in every way. I kind of like the House of Flying Daggers fight sequences better. Fight me about it. I don't know. Both of them are stunning. And they're sort of like the Hollywoodification, you know. I know that I'm missing a couple that I've watched in the last several years. I have, like I said, in the last 65 podcasts, I have amnesia. I don't really take in what I'm doing anymore because of childbirth, mostly, and mental breakdowns. Not breakdowns, but, setbacks, overwhelmingness, what all that stuff. I could go on for another year. In fact, if I had a podcast, I would do a Kung Fu movie every week. Also, we should interview, some of these people might not speak English, but obviously a lot of them, Jet Li got done wrong by Hollywood too. I'm sorry. They should be starring in everything. Oh, just seeing them move, they're just so, just incredible. Anyway, I wonder if Amazon, see, that's something we could do on Twitch. We could have like a Kung Fu watch party. If it's Amazon Prime, Felicia, don't obligate yourself to more. Okay, y'all, it's over. I'm leaving. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Please subscribe to this podcast or any of the other ones that I do, because I've got 3 of them now. But and stay tuned for ways you could support, and just join the Discord and my Twitch. I'm going to do some power washing. I apologize in advance. All right. Bye.